Hello and welcome back to the Hazzabhajan YouTube channel. It is Harry here, and today it is time for a video that is actually based on current events as opposed to historical ones. I know full well that the idea I'm putting forward isn't particularly novel, but I thought it'd be quite fun to try regardless. It's every Premier League club's best signing, in my opinion, over the last 10 years. Taking into account aspects such as the player's fee, their impact, their performances at the club, their potential sell-on value if it's applicable, how much the club needed the player in question at the time.
You get the gist.
For full disclosure, transfers right the way back to the summer window of 2010 are considered. Nothing before that is taken into account. Loans are included and youth team promotions are of course not. I could do a video like every Premier League club's worst transfer over the last 10 years, but I saw a video entitled every Premier League club's worst transfer over the last 7 years, so I don't particularly want to be stealing ideas from that, but I decided to go with every Premier League club's best transfer over the last 10 years because I haven't seen a video of that, even though I'm pretty certain there is one lurking in the depths of the internet somewhere. So without further ado, here are my views on each Premier League club for the 2020-21 season and their best signing in the last 10 years. Arsenal, Alexis Sanchez. One of the toughest decisions in this entire video kicks it off, as Laurent Koscielny's 9-year service, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang's quality, and Santi Cazorla's wizardry on the ball were all considered, but in the end, I think the right choice is Alexis Sanchez. Yes, I know they lost him for free to Manchester United in January 2018, but the £35 million signing from Barcelona in the summer of 2014 was one of the best players in the Premier League, if not the best, during his 3.5 years with the club. His explosive pace, relentless energy and sheer tenacity allowed him to adapt with consummate ease, and he could score plenty too, with a Premier League goals per game ratio of a smidge under 1 in 2. His peak was in 2016-17 as he scored 24 goals to drag an uninspired Gunner side to just 1 point off Champions League qualification. Although since signing for Manchester United, he's probably been the worst signing in their history as a result of his extortionate wages. So I guess Arsenal were the real winners in the end. Aston Villa, Christian Benteke. The joint easiest decision in this video, it's pretty safe to say that Aston Villa have had a wretched decade, certainly in comparison with their glorious past, and their transfer business has somehow managed to be even worse. One shining light at Villa was Christian Benteke, and that's the only club you can talk about him being a shining light at since 2012. He hit double figures in the league in each of his seasons with Villa, with his best season coming in his debut campaign as he hit 19 goals in 2012-13. A snippet around £8 million, Benteke's raw strength and power meant that he provided stern competition for Romelu Lukaku as to who would be Belgium's main striker, and he helped keep Villa's heads above water in each of the 3 seasons he was there. When he was sold to Liverpool for £30 million in the summer of 2015, Benteke's fortunes, much like Villa's in many respects, dipped drastically, as he has struggled ever since to even score a goal, barring 1 season at Crystal Palace, and Villa were relegated the season after his departure. Brighton, Matt Ryan. The first row calling this list, I think most would go for Glenn Murray considering his goal-scoring exploits for the Seagulls in the Premier League, but I think that Matt Ryan has been a decent goalkeeper ever since he signed for Brighton from Valencia in 2017. The only games that he has missed since his arrival on the South Coast were when he was on Asian Cup duty with Australia in 2019, and he's been a solid presence in between the sticks, which Brighton so desperately needed when they were promoted. There is a distinct lack of defenders and goalkeepers throughout this video, so it's nice to feature a goalkeeper here, although that isn't the reason why I picked him, make no mistake about it. It was purely because he plugged a huge gap in Brighton's side when he walked through the door, and helped them adapt to life in the Premier League much more easily. Burnley, Ben Mee. Burnley were the team with the most names on my shortlist throughout this entire video, but only because they have had many very good signings, but no excellent or standout signings in this time. Nick Pope, Danny Ings, Kieran Trippier, Michael Keane and Chris Wood were all on my short, or long list if you like, but it is between their 2 current centre-backs, James Tarkowski and Ben Mee, for the title in my opinion. I've gone with Ben Mee because his no-nonsense approach to defending embodies Burnley's ethos perfectly, and it's difficult to imagine him at any other club. Signed in 2012 from Man City, he now captains the Lancashire outfit, and he won praise from recently after his response to a banner flown over the Etihad which said White Lives Matter Burnley in June, so clearly he has a very good character to him as well. Chelsea, Eden Hazard. Although I came very close to picking Cesar Azpilicueta, who was signed for £7 million in 2012 and has been a stalwart in the Chelsea back line ever since, someone else who was signed in the same window as Azpilicueta takes it for me. Eden Hazard was one of Europe's hottest prospects in 2012 with Lille, and Chelsea were the ones to capture his services for £30 million, and boy was he worth every penny. Barring 2015-16, where he, like the rest of the Chelsea team, inexplicably downed tools the season after winning the league, Hazard dazzled for Chelsea with his close control and deadly eye for goal, scoring 85 goals in 245 games in the Premier League for the Blues, primarily as a winger. He won the PFA Young Player of the Year in 2014 and then the PFA Player of the Year in 2015, as well as coming second in 2017 and 2014 as well. And he helped the Blues win 2 Premier League titles and 2 Europa League crowns before departing for Real Madrid for £100 million in the summer of 2019. All in all, a decent bit of business by Chelsea. Crystal Palace, Wilfried Zaha. Although Luka Milivojevic deserves a mention, Wilfried Zaha is not only Palace's best academy graduate in the last 10 years, but he's also their best player and, of course, their best signing in that time too. Sold to Man United as Sir Alex Ferguson's last ever signing in football, things just didn't work out for Zaha at Old Trafford, and after a loan back to Palace in 2014, they bought him permanently in January 2015. Ever since, he's been one of the best players outside of the top 6, with fantastic pace and dribbling ability, even if his finishing can be left a little wanting sometimes. Despite everyone, probably himself included, knowing that he is too good for Palace, he's still there 6 years on, and I think his time has passed to go to a top club, which can only be good news for Palace fans. Maybe a bit less so for Zaha though. Everton, Romelu Lukaku. At the start and the end of the 2010s, Everton had issues up front, but in the middle of the decade, those problems were resolved by the arrival of Romelu Lukaku. Yet another victim of Chelsea's incessant loan system, he was borrowed by Everton in 2013 before being bought permanently the next season for £28 million. He went on to score goals like it was nobody's business, and between 2015 and 2017, he went on to score 43 goals in 74 games, with his pace and strength complementing his finishing ability perfectly. And he was a star player in the Everton side, who were floundering in mid-table during his time at the club. The Toffees made a £47 million profit on him when they sold him to Man United in 2017, and only with the emergence of Dominic Calvert-Lewin has it looked like they may have a fully fed striker to fix the gap. Fulham, Alexander Mitrovic. When Alexander Mitrovic joined Fulham on loan in January 2018, the Cottagers were pushing for the playoffs. By the season's end, they had lost just once since the final day of the season to deny them automatic promotion, and Mitro was already the second top scorer in the club, with 12 goals in just 17 games in the Championship that season, or half season if you rather. He was one of the very few standout players during Fulham's wretched season in the top flight in 2018-19, top scoring with 11 after joining permanently. But the next season, he finished as the Championship's top scorer with 26, as Fulham won the playoffs for the second time in 3 seasons. A bullish striker who has learned to channel his aggression which blighted his time at Newcastle, Mitrovic has become a much more well-rounded striker at Craven Cottage, and in spite of his £22 million price tag, he's been worth every penny to the club, unlike many of the mercenaries who joined in 2018. Jean-Michel Seri, anyone? Leeds, Pablo Hernandez. To be honest, along with Aston Villa, Leeds' transfer business and recruitment has been among the worst in the Premier League over the last 10 years, although then again they have been in the Championship for all that time. And if anything, the best signing that the club have made in that time is Marcelo Bielsa, their current manager. Amongst the playing staff, I've plumped for Pablo Hernandez, who was dragged in from the wilderness of Qatar in 2016, originally on loan, before a permanent move in January 2017. And he's consistently been one of the most creative players in the Championship ever since his arrival on Elland Road. Fulfilling the Enganche role of being the centre of attacking play under Bielsa, he was Leeds' Player of the Season in 2017-18 and 2018-19, as well as being nominated for the EFL Team of the Season in the latter season too. And he helped Leeds win promotion back to the Premier League after 16 years away, still being a key player even at the age of 35. Leicester, Jamie Vardy. With Leicester, it's a choice of their 3 title heroes, Jamie Vardy, N'Golo Kante or Riyad Mahrez, with honourable mentions also going to Wes Morgan, Wilfred Ndidi and Harry Maguire, the latter purely for the sell-on price. How did he cost £80 million? Can someone please explain that to me? My choice, however, is Vardy, even though Mahrez recouped a £60 million price tag from a £750,000 purchase from Le Havre in 2014. Vardy was the first £1 million sale by a non-league side when he joined Leicester in 2012 from Fleetwood, and after taking a season to acclimatise in both the Championship and the Premier League, his goal-scoring record has been incredible. He scored 24 as Leicester won the league in 2015-16, including in a record 11 consecutive games, and since then he has hit 13, 20, 18 and 23, the latter total winning him the Golden Boot. An inspiration to all who want to make it to the very top, Vardy is showing no signs of slowing down, despite approaching 34. Liverpool, Luis Suarez. Signed on the same day as Andy Carroll, Suarez was cheaper than Carroll, yet he had an infinitely more distinguished Anfield career. Of that there is no doubt. After half a season finding his feet, Suarez scored 11 goals in his first full season at the club, before becoming the Premier League's best player between 2012 and 2014, scoring a staggering 54 in 66 in the league across those 2 seasons. Despite a well-publicised bite on Branislav Ivanovic, he dragged a subpar Liverpool side, alongside Daniel Sturridge and Raheem Sterling, kicking and screaming to within a Gerrard slip of a Premier League title in 2014, winning the PFA Player of the Year that year after scoring a joint record 31 goals during that Premier League season, before he was sold to Barcelona for £75 million, a £53 million profit. Mo Salah, Sadio Mane, Jordan Henderson, Andy Robertson and Philippe Coutinho for their fees and performances all deserve mentions, as well as Van Dijk's performances on his own, but I think in terms of his price, sell-on value and overall impact on the club, my choice is Luis Suarez. Manchester City, Sergio Agüero. Where do you even start with Man City? Yaya Toure, Kevin De Bruyne, Raheem Sterling, Fernandinho, Martin Demichelis.
Okay, maybe not him.
Are just some honourable mentions, but in the end it boils down to two, David Silva and Sergio Agüero. It's such a tight call, but I'm going with Agüero, who was signed for Atletico Madrid for £38 million in 2011, which, at the time, was a club record. Ever since, he's produced the Premier League's most iconic moments with 93-20 against QPR back in 2012, he's won the Premier League Golden Boot once in 2015, has become the club's all-time top goal scorer by a considerable distance, helped City win 4 league titles as well as a plethora of other domestic trophies, only finished below 20 goals in a season 3 times his entire career during the Premier League, and all 3 of those seasons were injury blighted, and he's currently the 4th highest scorer in Premier League history since 1992. All in the space of just 9 seasons. Furthermore, his arrival at the time showcased City's pulling power as clubs all over Europe wanted him, yet City were the ones to land his signature. All that considered, he edged it over Silva. Manchester United, David De Gea. For short-termism, you have to say Robin van Persie, purely for that one season under Sir Alex Ferguson when he scored 26 goals to help United win the league, for the last time in their history to date. But the obvious answer, for long-termism, is David De Gea. Ever since Ferguson's departure, United's transfer business has been sketchy at best, but one of his last signings was a young Spanish goalkeeper from Atletico Madrid for £18 million. Despite a shaky start, De Gea grew in stature and confidence, and he was the best goalkeeper in the Premier League for about 6 seasons between 2012 and 2018, despite United's own fortunes during that time not being very good. He had an expected goals ratio of something like plus 12 in 2017-18, meaning that he should have conceded 12 more goals than he actually did across the entire season, and he was named in the PFA Team of the Year 4 times in a row between 2015 and 2018, as well as an extra one in 2013. Even though his form has been very inconsistent ever since the 2018 World Cup, he has to take this title hands down. Newcastle, Jamal Lascelles. Martin Dubravka has become one of the most underrated goalkeepers in the Premier League, and I believe he made the most saves of any goalkeeper across the whole of last season. And even this early on, Alan Saint-Maximin has to be in the conversation too, but their best transfer in the last 10 years has to be their current captain, Jamal Lascelles. A rock-solid defender, Lascelles' form during the 2017-18 season led to many saying that he should have been called up for England's 2018 World Cup squad, which I do agree with, although it didn't eventually materialise. Having seen him play quite a lot, Newcastle's defence looks so much more stoic when the 27-year-old is playing, with his leadership skills shining through, and he only cost £4.5 million from Nottingham Forest back in 2014, nearly a tenth of Joe Linton. Sheffield United, Billy Sharp. In a tight call between Billy Sharp and Ender Stevens, I'm going for the club hero Sharp, mostly because of the role he played in United's rise up the leagues between 2015 and 2019. Now in his 3rd spell at the Blades, he rejoined his boyhood club in 2015 and finished as the club's top scorer in each of the next 4 seasons, as United finally got out of League One in 2017, a season in which he scored 30 goals, before a shock promotion to the Premier League was achieved in 2019. In that season, Sharp scored 23 goals as captain to take them up to the promised land, and whilst he only scored 3 times in his maiden top flight campaign, it's more to do with his prior role in their rise up the leagues as to why he gets the nod from me. Although maybe Ender Stevens might take this accolade in a couple of years' time if his performances keep up to the standards that they are now. Southampton, Dusan Tadic. Whilst the answer could, and probably will be, Danny Ings in the future, especially if he keeps up his phenomenal goal-scoring record, and Virgil van Dijk and Sadio Mane were both signed by the Saints in this decade, even though they went on to play for Liverpool, I'm going with Dusan Tadic. Signed from £10 million from Ajax in 2014, he started as the Saints qualified for Europe in 2 consecutive seasons and reached the League Cup final in 2017. He was the creative spark in the Saints midfield, and although he grew tired of Southampton and returned to Ajax in 2018 for a similar fee, subsequently exploding into life when he got back to Amsterdam, his performances with the Saints were still good enough to warrant him the accolade for now, although I know Ings will overtake him in the near future. Tottenham Hotspur, Christian Eriksen. The only player during Spurs' 2013 summer spending spree in light of Gareth Bale's departure who didn't disappoint, Christian Eriksen did so much more than just not disappoint. He became the creative fulcrum in a title-challenging Spurs side, with his set pieces proving dangerous at all times and his technical ability and long-range shooting were both outstanding. He cost the club just £11.5 million from Ajax, and even though he kicked up a fuss and demanded to leave in 2019, which he got at the start of this year, departing for Inter Milan, his time at Spurs cannot be underestimated as to how pivotal he was to how the team functioned. Dele, Jan Vertonghen and Heung-min Son are extremely honourable mentions, especially the latter, but Eriksen takes the crown, in my opinion, indisputably so. West Brom, Ben Foster. I've admired Ben Foster for a long time, and he's remained one of the Premier League's most underrated goalkeepers throughout his career, his image perhaps tainted by letting Paul Robinson score against him whilst playing for Watford in 2007. His reflexes and shot-stopping ability are excellent even now at the age of 37, and they were most certainly on point when he joined West Brom in 2011 on loan, keeping a club record 10 clean sheets that season, and then permanently in 2012. He won the Club Player of the Year twice, and in 2016-17 he was even nominated for the Football Writers Association's Player of the Year, but he couldn't prevent their relegation in 2018 despite being, yet again, a standout player that season. Not bad for £4 million. West Ham, Dimitri Payet. It's West Ham's academy players who are taking the limelight nowadays, such as Mark Noble and Declan Rice, and their transfer business hasn't really been that great, apart from 2 honourable mentions in Aaron Cresswell and Kevin Nolan, and 1 very standout player. I know he was only there for 1.5 seasons, but Dimitri Payet really is the only world-class player that West Ham have had on their books in the last decade. Nominated for the PFA Player of the Year award in 2016, Payet was an amazing playmaker for the Hammers, controlling proceedings and bamboozling everyone with his incredible set-piece ability. See, for example, that goal against Crystal Palace, which I still can't quite fathom to this day. Even though his time at the club ended in an acrimonious departure, I can't overlook him for the title of West Ham's best signing in the last 10 years. Wolves, Ruben Neves. In terms of bargains and longevity, Matt Doherty should clinch it, having joined for just £75,000 in 2010 and staying at Wolves throughout their demise down the divisions and rise back up them, and Juan Moutinho and Raul Jimenez are both quality purchases by the Midlands outfits. However, the fact that Wolves were able to sign the youngest Champions League captain in history, having just finished 15th in the Championship in 2017, is still ludicrous to me now, even with Jorge Mendes' obvious influence over the club. Ruben Neves is such a classy player, able to spray passes across the pitch and control the play, even though he seemingly has an allergy to the opposition's box and can only score long-range thunderbolts. I guess in a way, that contributes to his star quality, and so based on what he also brought to the Wolves project, as well as his obvious quality, I'm picking Ruben Neves, even though the obvious answer is probably Matt Doherty. That just about concludes today's video. Thank you very much for watching. Of course, if you do want me to do like a worst signings in the last 10 years, I can do that, even if I might be stealing a couple of ideas from the other YouTube video that I watch. But if you do want me to do it, then hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, comment down below if I've got any decisions wrong or what you think your Premier League club's best signing over the last 10 years is, if you think I've got it completely wrong. But thank you very much for watching in any case, and until next time, I'll see you then.